So we've got a posterior viewing portal, which is more or less a posterior lateral portal. We have a lateral working portal, and we have an anterior working portal. If you look on the inside view now, you see that we have a single tendon tear that's about a 2 centimeter, 1.5 to 2 centimeter tear. So the first thing I want to show you is a SpeedFix technique. And in the SpeedFix technique, we initially pass an inverted mattress fiber tape. So we'll show you how we load the Scorpion Fast Pass. We like to take the suture and tension it somewhat, and then we'll pull it back in the fork of our lower jaw, and then we bring the needle up enough so that side of the needle actually engages the suture, and then you let it come back down. Then we go back inside the joint, and we're going to pass an inverted mattress suture. So we're going to pass first anterior. It doesn't really matter, but in this case we'll be able to see the posterior one better if we do the anterior one first. And we'll just come back out through our lateral portal. So for suture management, what I like to do is to bring that first pass out through an alternative portal, so we'll bring that out through an anterior portal. And now I'm going to want to pass this other limb more posteriorly. Once again, we're going to load our Fast Pass Scorpion by putting the leader of the fiber tape into that fork of the lower jaw. We'll advance the needle just enough so that little slot in the side shows up and the suture engages in that slot in the needle, and then we let it retract back in. Then we're going to place our posterior pass, which you see here. And I'm going to bring that also out this other portal here, just to aid us in our suture management. We've got our sutures out through the anterior portal for suture management, and now I'm going to use our power pick to make a couple of little vent holes into the greater tuberosity. So this is an outside view showing our FiberTape Retriever, and you see it has a radiused upper jaw, and that provides for a relatively frictionless passage retrieval of these FiberTape limbs. So we go in and we'll retrieve these two fiber tapes through the lateral portal. So one thing you can do is with your FiberTape Retriever, you can bring this over laterally and get a sense of where your anchor needs to go by tensioning those tapes. And you can see how you close this clamshell type of a tear pattern, and you can see exactly where you need to put your anchor. So now we're going to punch a hole here. We're using a swivel lock. So we go up to the SL, and we'll just leave that punch in place while we're loading the tails of our fiber tape through the anchor. So on the outside view, you see we have this nice little threader that we can take our fiber tape tails through, and we can just thread those through the eyelet of our anchor. Now the reason we've left our punch in there is that we don't want to lose the location of that hole while we're bringing the anchor down. So I'm going to start the anchor down, and then I'm going to pull out this punch, and then I'll just follow that down while I'm keeping an eye on where that hole is, right here. So what we do is we'll put our eyelet just below the surface of the bone so that it's going to have some resistance within that top of the bone socket, and then we'll pull and tension our fiber tape limbs one at a time, and you'll see how all the slack will come out of the system, like so. That's good. And then we'll just insert our anchor by tapping it in. We release the tails, and then as you tap that in, like so, you see that the anchor will slide alongside the tape, and you'll have a very nicely tensioned repair. Now, another alternative method to reinforce this, if your tissue is not very high quality, is to add another limb. And this would be a ripstop type of a suture that not only will reinforce against pullout, but it'll also dramatically improve the strength. In fact, the pullouts of this construct I'm going to show you are about the same as a triply loaded suture anchor. As part of our suture management, we're going to spread these tapes, one through the posterior portal and one through the anterior, because the other suture is going to go between the two. And so we have sort of the two goal posts, and we're going to want to go between those two goal posts. Now I'm going to go back to a posterior viewing portal. So the next step involves placing the other suture, which is actually a Fiberlink. And what a Fiberlink is a loop that has a merged tip to it so that it comes down into a single strand for passage of the suture with a standard scorpion pass-through. So now we're loaded, and what we want to do now, in order for that tape to act as a ripstop, we want to place the suture medial to the tape. We're going between the goalposts and medial to the tape. So we'll fire that, and you see how we capture it, medial to the tape. So the tapes act as a ripstop. You see that we've got this loop part of our Fiberlink here, and then we have the free end of our Fiberlink. And so we're going to pass the free end through the loop, and we're going to pull that down into what we call a cinch loop. And you see the cinch loop beginning to come down, and there you have it. There's the nice cinch loop between the two limbs of the fiber tape. Now we're going to use our FiberTape Retriever to pull the tapes out laterally. We'll pull the posterior tape out, and once again we're going to thread our sutures, and this nice big threader is very nice for these sutures here. The more you have, the easier it becomes with these bigger threaders, and we'll just pull that through the eyelet of our anchor. So now we'll have our assistant hold tension on those FiberTape limbs and the Fiberlink limb, and we'll just bring our anchor down into the shoulder. And so now we've found that hole that we've made in the greater tuberosity right there. And then we'll just tension this, fairly well tensioned already, but if we're not happy with the tensioning, we can individually tension each of those limbs, not to over-tension it, but just a little bit of tensioning. So now we've tensioned our suture limbs, and we're going to use a mallet to mallet the anchor the rest of the way in. And what that does, it allows the driver and the eyelet to slip alongside the fiber tapes and not over tension them, but they'll be perfectly tensioned by the time your first thread hits. And you want to keep advancing it till the first thread hits down on the bone. So we'll tap it on down. Now, if you notice on the outside view, I'm going to hold the thumb pad while my assistant turns the screwdriver handle. At this point, we're all the way down. I'm going to hold the screwdriver handle of our inserter, and then I'm going to turn this thumb pad clockwise. And you see what that does on the inside view. It backs that sleeve off, and we can see exactly how well we're inserted up against the level of the bone. In this case, I think we're just flush with the cortical margin, and that looks perfect to me. So in that case, we'll unwrap the sutures from the back of the inserter. Those sutures are the ones that are attached to the eyelet, and they provide another set of sutures if you wanted to use that, if you needed it, for example, to reduce a dog ear. In this case, we're going to take those sutures out, but you see how it would be a very nice extra set of sutures if you needed it. And then we use our fiber tape cutter to cut this down flush with the surface of the bone. So the fiber tape cutter is a very powerful cutting instrument, and basically will cut multiple fiber tapes and sutures all at once. So I'm going to thread the suture limbs of all three of these through this fiber tape cutter, and now we can just bring it on down and cut these flush with the bone. So now you can see our repair, and I'll show you through a lateral portal as well. So now you can see where we have the two limbs of the fiber tape acting as a ripstop for that Fiberlink that comes through the middle if you have poor tissue quality. But you have 3 points of fixation down to the one anchor, 2 of those being tape fixation. So this is a very strong construct. A very nice head-on view down the shaft of that anchor, and you see the anchor is vented all the way down to the tip, plus it has side vents so that the marrow elements are going to be able to come up through those vents. And so you can imagine what's going to happen there. It leaves some channels for bone ingrowth through those vents. So you see that some of the advantages to this fixation are that you can quickly do it. It's low profile. There are no knots. It has excellent fixation strength. It is outside the footprint so that you have full contact of bone against tendon without taking up any footprint space with an anchor. So I think it has multiple advantages for the surgeon who's looking at a good, reliable way to repair a small tear.